A teenage influencer walks into a family restaurant and treats the staff like dirt, filming everything for views, mocking the food, humiliating a hard-working waitress. When the bill comes, he refuses to pay. But what he doesn't know is that the chef standing before him holds a devastating secret from 8 years ago. A secret that connects them in the most heartbreaking way imaginable. What happens next will leave you speechless. This is a story about karma, grief, and the second chance that cost everything. Chapter 1. The Perfect Night. Rose's kitchen glowed under warm Saturday evening lights. The scent of roasted garlic and fresh basil hung in the air, mingling with laughter and the soft clink of wine glasses. This was the kind of place where families celebrated birthdays, where couples marked anniversaries, where every dish carried memories in each bite. Chef Marco Rossi wiped his hands on his tomato-stained apron, watching the dining room through the kitchen window. At 50 years old, his face bore deep lines around his eyes, not from joy, but from something heavier, something he had carried for 8 years. Every table was occupied. Every plate leaving his kitchen was a work of art. His father had built this place with bare hands, brick by brick, dream by dream. Italian immigrants who believed food was love transformed into sustenance. Then the door opened. Tyler Mitchell entered as if he owned not just the restaurant, but the very air inside it. 17 years old, designer clothes worth more than a server's monthly salary, sneakers that gleamed under the chandelier lights. 3 friends followed, each equally draped in arrogance and expensive labels. Emma, the waitress, approached with a professional smile. 22, college student, working 2 jobs to pay tuition. Marco knew her story. He knew everyone's story who worked for him. "Good evening, gentlemen. Table for 4? Her voice was warm, practiced. Tyler didn't look at her. He was already filming on his phone, panning across the restaurant. "Yeah, whatever. Somewhere with good lighting. I need content." His friends laughed. That particular laugh. The one that came from never hearing the word no. Marco's jaw tightened. Something in the boy's profile triggered a distant memory, like a photograph developing slowly in dark water. But the dinner rush demanded his attention. He returned to his station, hands moving with practiced precision through decades of muscle memory. Chapter 2. The Impossible Order. 20 minutes later, Emma approached the kitchen window, her face pale. Her order ticket trembled slightly in her hand. "Chef, table 7 is difficult." Marco read the modifications. The bolognese sauce, his grandmother's recipe, perfected over 70 years, needed to be not too tomatoey. The handmade pasta should be gluten-free, but still taste exactly like regular pasta. The veal marsala required no wine, no mushrooms, extra wine, extra mushrooms. "They're joking," Marco said. Emma shook her head. "They're filming everything. He keeps sending dishes back, saying they're not Instagram-worthy." Through the window, Marco watched Tyler holding up a perfectly plated risotto, rotating it under his phone's camera, then pushing it away with disgust. Loud enough for nearby tables to hear, "This looks like something my dog wouldn't eat." Other diners glanced over, uncomfortable. The warmth in the room shifted, like a shadow passing over sunlight. Emma returned to the table. Tyler leaned back in his chair, feet propped on the opposite seat. $50 a head seats, his shoes were scuffing. Seat? $50 a head seats, his shoes were scuffing. "This place is supposed to be authentic Italian?" He spoke to his phone camera, not to her. "My followers need to know this is totally overrated. The service is terrible, the food is mediocre, and honestly..." He finally looked at Emma, his eyes cold. "The staff looks like they barely graduated high school." Emma's cheeks flushed red, her hands clasped together, knuckles white. She was working on her master's degree in education. She tutored underprivileged children on Sunday mornings. She had more dignity in her smallest finger than this boy possessed in his entire being, but she needed this job. "I apologize, sir. Can I get you anything else?" Tyler smirked. "Yeah, a real restaurant." His friends erupted in laughter. Phones appeared around the table, all recording, all capturing Emma's humiliation for entertainment. Marco gripped the edge of his prep station. That profile, that laugh. Where had he seen this boy before? Chapter 3. The Refusal. An hour and a half later, Emma carried the check to table 7. Her hands no longer trembled. Something inside her had gone numb, a survival mechanism she'd learned from previous encounters with cruelty disguised as customer service. The bill totaled $340, 4 premium entrees, expensive wine, multiple appetizers. They'd eaten everything. Despite the complaints, despite the cameras, every plate had been scraped clean. Plate had been scraped clean. Tyler picked up the check, examined it with theatrical disgust, then looked directly at Emma. "I'm not paying this." The words hung in the air. Nearby conversations faltered, died. Heads turned. "I'm sorry?" Emma's voice barely whispered. "The food was terrible. The service was worse. Prove I ate anything." He gestured to the empty plates being cleared. Those could be anyone's dishes. "Sir, I watched you eat." "Did you?" Tyler stood, phone in hand, still recording. "Because I'm pretty sure you were too busy being incompetent to notice anything. I'm not paying for an experience that was essentially robbery." Essentially robbery. His friends stood too, a wall of entitled teenagers blocking the aisle. Other diners watched, some recording now, drawn to conflict like moths to flame. Emma looked toward the kitchen. "Help me," her eyes pleaded. Tyler noticed. "Oh, you gonna get the manager? Perfect. I'll tell him exactly how his waitress tried to scam us. My dad's a lawyer. We'll bury this place." That's when Marco emerged from the kitchen. He moved slowly, methodically, drying his hands on a towel. Every person in the restaurant tracked his movement. There was something in his bearing, not aggression, but weight. The weight of a man who had carried something unbearable for so long that he'd forgotten how to put it down. He stopped 3 feet from Tyler. Tyler grinned, phone camera pointed at Marco's face. "Let me guess, you're going to threaten me? Go ahead. My followers are watching. This is going viral." Marco studied the boy's face. Green eyes. That particular shade of green. Like sea glass. Like stormlight through ocean waves. The jawline. The way his hair fell across his forehead. Recognition crashed through Marco like a riptide. "You don't recognize me, do you?" Marco's voice was quiet. Dangerously quiet. Tyler laughed. "Why would I recognize some random chef?" "Because 8 years ago," Marco said, each word deliberate, measured, "I saved your life." The restaurant fell absolutely silent. Tyler's smirk faltered, just for a second. "What are you talking about?" Chapter 4. The Silence Before the Storm. Marco's eyes never left Tyler's face. Around them, the world seemed to hold its breath. Emma stood frozen. The other diners leaned forward, sensing something profound about to shatter. "Ocean Crest Beach," Marco said. "August 15th, 8 years ago. You were 9 years old." Tyler's phone lowered slightly. His friends exchanged glances. "There was a storm warning," Marco continued, "but families were still on the beach. You went into the water despite the red flags. Despite your parents screaming from the shore." Color drained from Tyler's face. "The riptide caught you 30 yards out. You went under, came up screaming, went under again." Marco's voice remained steady, but something terrible lived behind his eyes. "I was there with my family, my wife, my daughter." He paused. The silence stretched, pulled, became unbearable. "I heard your mother screaming, saw you go under the 3rd time. I didn't think. I just ran into the water." Tyler's phone was completely lowered now. His friends had stopped recording. The current was stronger than anything I'd ever felt. Like hands pulling me down, pulling you down. I grabbed you, held you above water, swam toward shore even though every stroke felt like drowning. Marco's hands trembled. Slightly. Just enough to notice. "I got you to the beach. You were breathing, alive. Your parents were crying, holding you. Everyone was celebrating. The hero who saved the drowning boy." He took a step closer to Tyler. "But while I was saving you, my daughter, my 7-year-old daughter Sophia, she was playing in the shallow water 20 feet from where you went under. The same riptide that caught you caught her." Emma's hand went to her mouth. "By the time I got you to shore, by the time I realized Sophia wasn't with my wife, by the time I ran back into the water," Marco's voice finally cracked. "She was gone. They found her body 3 hours later, a quarter-mile down the beach." Tyler stood completely still. His phone slipped from his hand, clattered on the floor. "I saved your life," Marco whispered, "and it cost me my daughter's." Chapter 5. The Flashback Revealed. The restaurant existed in suspended animation. No one moved. No one breathed. Marco reached into his apron pocket and pulled out a worn photograph. His hands shook as he held it up. A little girl with dark curls and Marco's same deep brown eyes, laughing on a swing, joy captured in a single perfect moment. This is Sophia. She loved to draw. She wanted to be an artist. Her favorite color was yellow because she said it looked like happiness. His voice broke on the last word. Every morning she'd come down to this restaurant before school, and I'd make her chocolate chip pancakes. She'd sit right there. He pointed to a corner booth, and draw pictures of the flowers in the window box. Tears streamed down Emma's face. Several diners were crying openly. After she died, I couldn't look at those flowers, couldn't make pancakes, couldn't look at swing sets or crayons or the color yellow without feeling like I was drowning all over again. Marco's eyes locked onto Tyler's. This restaurant became my life raft, the only thing keeping me from going under completely. Tyler's face had gone white as paper. His friends stood behind him, no longer filming, just teenage boys suddenly confronted with real consequences. I never blamed you, Marco said quietly. You were a child. Children make mistakes. Your parents thanked me at Sophia's funeral. They sent flowers every year on the anniversary of her death. They were good people carrying impossible guilt. He took another step forward. But you, Marco's voice hardened. You grew up. You had the second chance my daughter never got. And this is what you became? Someone who humiliates working people for entertainment, who treats kindness like weakness, who thinks cruelty is content. Tyler's mouth opened. No words came. Tyler's mouth opened. No words came. Sophia would have been 15 now. Maybe she'd be working her first job as a hostess. Maybe she'd encounter someone like you, someone who'd mock her smile, film her tears, make her feel small for the entertainment of strangers. Marco's hands clenched into fists, then slowly released. So no, Tyler Mitchell. You don't get to walk away from this bill. You don't get to treat people like they're disposable. Not in my restaurant. Not in the place I built from the ruins of the worst day of my life. Chapter 6. The Silent Vengeance. Tyler tried to speak. His voice came out hoarse. I didn't know. Of course you didn't know. Marco's words cut like surgical steel. Because you've never bothered to know anyone's story. You've never looked at another human being and wondered what they've survived, what they've lost, what it cost them to smile at people like you. He turned to Emma, his voice softening. Emma, please bring me the police report from Table 7's meal. Every plate they ordered, every drink, every modification they demanded. Emma nodded, disappearing toward the office. Marco looked back at Tyler. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pay this bill in full, with a 20% tip for Emma, because despite your best efforts to break her spirit, she served you with grace. Tyler nodded quickly, reaching for his wallet. And, Marco continued, you're going to work here every Saturday evening for the next 6 months, unpaid. Tyler's head snapped up. What? You'll serve tables. You'll wash dishes. You'll sweep floors. You'll learn the names of every person who works here, their real names, their stories, their struggles. You'll experience what it feels like to serve people who treat you like you're invisible. You can't force me to... I can't, Marco agreed. But I can call your parents right now. I have their number. They still send flowers to my daughter's grave. I can tell them how the boy I saved, the boy who got to live while my daughter died, grew up to be someone who humiliates service workers for social media entertainment. Tyler's friends shifted uncomfortably. I can also post the security footage from tonight, all of it, along with the full story of what happened 8 years ago. Let your followers decide if mocking a waitress is still entertaining when they know it comes from someone who owes their very existence to another family's grief. Marco's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Or you can show up next Saturday at 5 o'clock, ready to learn what it means to be human. The choice hung in the air like smoke. Tyler looked at his friends, at the restaurant full of witnesses, at Emma, whose tears had finally stopped, replaced by something harder, stronger, at the photograph of Sophia still clutched in Marco's hand. 6 months? His voice cracked. 6 months, Marco confirmed. Miss a single Saturday, and everything I just described becomes reality. Tyler's hand shook as he pulled out his credit card. I'll be here. Good. Marco took the card, handed it to Emma. Now apologize, and mean it. Tyler turned to Emma. His friends' phones were forgotten on the table. No more cameras, no more performance, just a 17-year-old boy confronting the weight of his own cruelty. I'm so sorry. The words came out broken. I was horrible to you. You didn't deserve any of that. I'm sorry. Emma nodded slowly. Apology accepted. She processed his payment, including the tip, and returned his card without another word. Tyler and his friends walked toward the door. At the threshold, Tyler stopped, turned back. Mr. Rossi? Marco looked up. I'm sorry, about your daughter. About everything. I'm sorry, about your daughter. About everything. Marco said nothing, simply held his daughter's photograph a moment longer, then tucked it back into his apron pocket. The door closed. The restaurant slowly came back to life, conversations resuming, forks clinking against plates, the normal rhythm of Saturday evening reasserting itself. Emma approached Marco. Thank you. He nodded. Go take your break. You earned it. She hesitated. Do you really think he'll change? Marco looked toward the door where Tyler had disappeared. I don't know. But Sophia believed people could be better than their worst moments. Maybe she was right. Chapter 7. The Transformation. 6 months passed like water over stone, slowly but with persistent force. The first Saturday, Tyler arrived 15 minutes early. He wore simple clothes, no designer labels. His phone stayed in his locker the entire shift. He burned his first attempt at brewing coffee, dropped a tray of glasses, got orders wrong. Customers snapped at him. Other servers corrected him with barely concealed impatience. He didn't complain once. By week 3, he knew Emma was studying for her teaching certification. By week 6, he learned that Carlos, the dishwasher, sent money home to his family in Honduras every month. By week 10, he discovered that Marco still visited his daughter's grave every Sunday morning before the restaurant opened. Tyler started arriving 30 minutes early. He memorized regular customers' favorite dishes, learned to fold napkins the way Marco's mother had taught him 50 years ago, discovered that the weight of a full tray distributed across your shoulder hurt less than watching someone's dignity crack under casual cruelty. On the 15th Saturday, an influencer came in. Tyler recognized him from social media, someone he'd once collaborated with. The influencer started the same routine Tyler had perfected 6 months earlier, filming the food, mocking the decor, treating the staff like props in his performance. Tyler approached the table. Excuse me, but you need to put your phone away during your meal. The influencer looked up, recognition flashing. Tyler? Dude, what are you doing working here? This place is a family restaurant where real people work really hard to serve you really good food, Tyler interrupted. Respect that, or leave. The influencer left. Emma witnessed the exchange from across the room. She caught Tyler's eye and nodded, small, meaningful. On his final Saturday, week 26, Tyler worked his shift with quiet efficiency. At closing time, Marco called him to the kitchen. The space was clean, prep stations wiped down, tomorrow's ingredients already organized. Marco stood at his personal station, that worn photograph in his hands. This was taken 3 days before she died, Marco said softly. We went to the county fair. She won a stuffed elephant at the ring toss. It was twice her size. She insisted on carrying it herself all the way to the car. Tyler said nothing. Sometimes silence is the only appropriate response. You know what I've realized? Marco looked up. I was angry at you for 8 years. Angry that you got to live. Angry that you got to grow up. Angry that you got to make mistakes and learn from them and become whoever you were going to become. He set the photograph down carefully. But anger is just grief wearing a different face. And grief is just love with nowhere to go. Tyler's eyes filled with tears. You're not the same kid who walked through that door 6 months ago, Marco continued. You learned something. Maybe not everything you need to learn. Life's a long classroom. But something important. Sophia would have liked that. None of us deserve the chances we get, Marco interrupted. I didn't deserve to lose my daughter. You didn't deserve to live while she died. Emma doesn't deserve to be treated poorly because someone's having a bad day. None of it's about deserving. It's about what we do with the time we're given. He pulled an envelope from his pocket, handed it to Tyler. What's this? Your payment. 6 months of work. Every hour at minimum wage plus tips. Tyler stared at the envelope. But you said... I said unpaid. I lied. The corners of Marco's mouth lifted slightly. Not quite a smile, but something softer than the hardness Tyler had first encountered. Consider it scholarship money. Emma told me you got accepted to college. Education's expensive. Mr. Rossi, I can't. You can, and you will, because Sophia's college fund still exists. It just belongs to someone else now. Marco's voice remained steady. I can't send my daughter to college, but I can help send someone who learned what she would have wanted to teach, that people matter more than performance, that kindness costs nothing but means everything, that second chances are precious specifically because they're rare. Tyler's hands shook as he held the envelope. Inside was a check for $8,000. I don't know what to say. Say you'll remember. Remember this place. Remember the people who work 3 jobs to survive. Remember that every human being you encounter is carrying something heavy, fighting battles you can't see, trying their best with insufficient resources. Marco picked up Sophia's photograph one more time. Remember that the boy who drowned 8 years ago died that day, and the person you are now, whoever you choose to be, that's the life my daughter's death purchased. Make it worth something. Tyler wiped his eyes. I will. I promise. Good. Marco extended his hand. Tyler shook it, firm, respectful, equal. Now get out of here. You've got packing to do before college starts. Tyler walked toward the door, then stopped. Mr. Rossi, would it be okay if I visited Sophia's grave before I leave for school? Marco's eyes closed briefly. When they opened, they were wet. She'd like that. She always loved meeting new people. Tyler nodded and left. Marco stood alone in his kitchen, holding his daughter's photograph. The restaurant was silent now, all customers gone, all dishes washed, all tables set for tomorrow's service. Did you see that, baby girl? He whispered to the photograph. He learned? He actually learned. For the first time in 8 years, Marco allowed himself to imagine what Sophia would say if she could respond. She'd probably tell him he was being too serious. She'd probably make him laugh with some observation about the boy's shoes, or the way he said thank you too many times. She'd probably tell him she was proud. Marco carefully placed the photograph back in his apron pocket, right over his heart where he kept it every single day. He turned off the lights, locked the restaurant, and walked home under street lights that cast long shadows across empty sidewalks. Tomorrow would bring new customers, new challenges, new opportunities to honor his daughter's memory by treating every person with the dignity she never got to grow old enough to perfect. Tomorrow the restaurant would open again, and somewhere a boy who nearly drowned 8 years ago would wake up and remember he was living on borrowed time, time purchased with the highest possible price. And maybe, just maybe, he'd spend it